On January 16, 1979, the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, and his wife, Farah Pahlavi, left Iran at the behest of Prime Minister Shapur Bakhtiar, who sought to calm the situation following extreme unrest and open opposition to the monarchy and strikes that paralyzed the economy. After the departure of the Shah, Ayatollah Khamenei became the new leader of Iran. Saudi Arabia and other OPEC nations increased production to offset most of the decline. And by early 1979, the overall loss in worldwide production was roughly 4%. But trouble in the energy sector was only beginning. The war between Iran and Iraq in 1980 caused a further 7% drop in worldwide production, and OPEC production was surpassed by other exporters such as the United States, as its member nations were divided amongst themselves. Saudi Arabia, a swing producer, tried to gain back the market share by 1985, increasing production and causing downward pressure on oil prices, making high-cost oil production facilities less profitable. Starting with the Iranian Revolution, the price of crude oil rose to $39.50 per barrel over the next 12 months, its all-time highest price up until that point. On July 15, 1979, U.S. President Jimmy Carter outlined plans to reduce oil imports and improve energy efficiency in his Crisis of Confidence speech, sometimes known as the Malay speech. In the speech, Carter encouraged citizens to do what they could to reduce their use of energy. He had already installed water tank heating solar panels on the roof of the White House and a wood-burning stove in the living quarters. Energy is one of the most important inputs for economic development. From a physical viewpoint, the use of energy drives economic productivity and industrial growth and is central to the operation of any modern economy. The industrial sector uses a variety of energy sources, including natural gas, petroleum, electricity, renewable sources, and coal. The industrial sector uses electricity for operating industrial motors and machinery, lights, computers, and office equipment, as well as equipment for facility heating and cooling and ventilation. Nigeria is struggling with its own energy needs, especially electricity. This has caused a massive slowdown in the nation's productivity, effectively making it impossible for the country to produce any industrial product at a competitive price, thereby making the nation's economy import dependent. The Tertiary Education Trust Fund believes research and development can solve this problem by developing an effective energy mix for Nigeria. Stay with us and find out how. These are the chronicles of the journey to institutionalize research and development in Nigeria. Hello, and welcome to this edition of TETFund, The Paradigm Shift. I am Stanley Bentu. Nigeria has an aspiration to join the elite club of nations that are thriving on a knowledge economy. But how is this even going to be possible if we're struggling with the delivery of electricity supply to homes for the most basic of needs, let alone heavy-duty industry? Now, according to the statistics from the International Energy Agency, the total Nigerian primary energy supply was just over 118,000 kiloton of oil equivalent, excluding electricity trade in 2011. As depicted in the figure you can see on the screen here, biomass and waste dominated our energy consumption with 82 0.2%. Now, renewable energy sources only accounted for a small share of the energy supply. For instance, hydropower only accounted for 0.4%. Wind and solar are also utilized, but at an insignificant and insufficient level as at present. Biomass is the dominant energy source in Nigeria due to the huge reliance on the energy source for cooking and heating purposes by majority of the Nigerian people. Now, according to the Global Initiative on Accessible, Clean and Efficient Energy, Sustainable Energy for All, little progress has been made with regards to providing access to non-solid cooking fuels since 1990. As visible in the figure here, in 2010, only 26% of the population had access to non-solid cooking fuels, with a big difference between urban and rural areas. Now, as a result of high economic growth and demographic pressure, in 2008, the Energy Commission of Nigeria, together with the International Atomic Energy Agency, projected a demand of 15,730 megawatts for 2010 and 119,200 megawatts for 2030 under the reference scenario of 7% yearly economic growth. Other actors, like the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria, that is PHCN, or the World Alliance for Decentralized Energy, have also developed scenarios. The result of these studies vary widely, but they all conclude that the current gap between supply and demand is already very substantial, and that it will become more deeply entrenched under the business as usual scenario. Now, many experts believe the solution to this problem is to increase the use of renewable energy in our energy mix. Simply put, energy mix is a group of different primary energy sources from which secondary energy for direct use, such as electricity, is produced. But to be more specific, a power generation mix, which refers only to the generation of electricity. So, is there a country that has ever really achieved this? How did they do it? What can we learn from that? Let us find out.
CompareTheMarket.com, a UK price comparison website founded in 2006, released the results of a study conducted to analyze countries using the highest and least amounts of renewable energy. The study examined some 21 countries and how they've invested in climate-friendly energy resources, including wind, solar, hydropower, and bioenergy. According to the ranking, Germany, the UK, Sweden, Spain, Italy, Brazil, Japan, Turkey, Australia, and the United States make up the top 10 in that order for R&D investment in renewable energy. Germany's use of renewables is high, owing to massive investments made as part of efforts by the government to meet EU renewable energy and climate action goals. Germany has been working to reduce its coal use, with the first half of 2019 seeing the country use more renewable sources of energy to produce electricity than coal and nuclear power combined for the first time. The power generation mix describes the breakdown of energy sources used specifically to generate electricity. In 2020, Germany generated electricity from the following sources: 27% wind, 24% coal, 12% nuclear, 12% natural gas, 10% solar, 9.3% biomass, and 3.7% hydroelectricity. Germany has been called the world's first major renewable energy economy. Renewable energy in Germany is mainly based on wind, solar, and biomass. Germany had the world's largest photovoltaic installed capacity until 2014, and as of 2016, it is the third with 40 gigawatts. It is also the world's third country by installed wind power capacity, at 50 gigawatts and second for offshore wind with over 4 gigawatts. Chancellor Angela Merkel, along with a vast majority of her compatriots, believes, and I quote, "As the first big industrialized nation, we can achieve such a transformation toward efficient and renewable energies, the opportunity that brings for exports, developing new technologies and new jobs." End of quote. The share of renewable electricity rose from just 3.4% of gross electricity consumption in 1990 to exceed 10% by 2005, 20% by 2011, and 30% by 2015, reaching 36.2% of consumption by year-end 2017. More than 23,000 wind turbines and 1.4 million solar PV systems are distributed all over the country. According to official figures, around 370,000 people were employed in the renewable energy sector in 2010, particularly in small and medium-sized companies. This is an increase of around 8% compared to 2009, with around 339,000 jobs, and well over twice the number of jobs in 2004, with just over 160,000. About two-thirds of these jobs are attributed to the European country's Renewable Energy Sources Act. Germany's federal government is working to increase renewable energy commercialization, with a particular focus on offshore wind farms. A major challenge is the development of sufficient network capacities for transmitting the power generated in the North Sea to the large industrial consumers in southern parts of the country. Germany's energy transition, the Energiewende, designates a significant change in energy policy from 2011. The term encompasses a reorientation of policy from demand to supply and a shift from centralized to distributed generation. For example, producing heat and power in very small cogeneration units, which should replace overproduction and avoidable energy consumption with energy-saving measures and increased efficiency. At the end of 2020, Germany had 2.3 gigawatt hours of home battery storage, often in conjunction with solar panels. Nigeria can learn from the innovative ways this developed nation has handled its electricity challenges.
Germany, if I'm correct, generates up to 50% of their energy using renewable energy at the moment. Nigeria recently signed an agreement with the German government, which gives is a government-to-government initiative where Nigeria would, I would say Nigeria increase their transmission capacity and distribution capacity. Siemens is a company in Germany that would be the deploying, that would deploy the solutions that would help Nigeria increase both their generation, distribution, and transmission capacity in phases to, I believe, up to 25,000 megawatts within the decade. So there's already a collaboration in that effort, and indeed there's a lot that we can learn from Germany and leverage on what they're doing so far, especially with using renewable energy.
Now, following President Muhammadu Buhari's official visit to Germany in 2016, the European country's government pledged to increase its investment in Nigeria, especially in renewable energy and other non-oil sector. In June of 2022, Nigeria and Germany held a maiden symposium in Abuja to foster their cooperation in the field of green hydrogen as an alternative energy source. Before that, in March of this year, the German government pledged to invest 13 billion euros in Nigeria's renewable energy industry. Now, speaking at the launch of the Environmental and Social Management Plan guidelines for solar mini-grid projects in Nigeria, the country director of GIZ Nigeria and the Economic Community of West African States, that's ECOWAS, Ms. Ina Homers, said that the German government would invest 13 billion euros in phase 2 of the project, which will begin in 2022. Now, this is a big opportunity for technology transfer and reverse engineering. But we can only achieve this if our R&D receptors are sharp and alert to opportunities. So, how is TETFund preparing Nigeria to effectively run its renewable electricity supply with locally sourced talent, materials, technology, and resources? Well, have a look at this report.
TETFund is a stakeholder that is playing a critical role of coordinating the relationship between the academia, the industry, and the government to solve this puzzle. Through its Center of Excellence on Renewable Energy at the Bayero University, Kano, and the Energy Thematic Group of the TETFund Standing Committee on Research and Development, which sought to develop a framework for application of R&D findings in the energy sector, with emphasis on renewable energy, especially solar, power mix, characterization and massive investment in renewable power sources. In its quest to promote investigations and learning in the field of renewable energy in the country, TETFund financed a world-class renewable energy research center in Bayero University, Kano in 2015. The multi-billion naira renewable energy project, sited in the new campus of the university along Jaguzo Road in the metropolis, is to serve as a research center for the conduct of investigations in the field of biomass, nuclear energy, as well as other forms of alternative energy.
We have abundance of sunlight. If we talk of renewable energy, you're talking about solar, you're talking about other sources of light, which everything zeroes down to the sun. So we feel depending on oil at this time may not augur well for the country. So we think it's better if we move towards renewable energy, where we have abundance of things around that we can use and give us energy to boost the economy of the country, and educationally that will also serve the country and the university better.
Knowing that a dependence on oil, hydrothermal and gas for energy have proved insufficient for Nigeria's economy, one must wonder what Nigeria needs to do to scale up its renewable energy.
Energy is key to everything, because we have machinery all over, we have industries. Success of our economy depends on what we produce. Now, if the government, and particularly TETFund, is investing in this direction, I have a strong belief that through the researches we're going to be doing and through this investment, we end up coming up with energy solutions to our problems.
The key is that we haven't even exploited or fully utilized these two dominant energy sources. For example, the hydros, we have an opportunity to generate much more than we are generating with the hydros at the moment, but we are not. Nigeria has one of the biggest gas reserves in the world, but we are not utilizing that capacity well. So once we begin to exploit and develop this energy resources that we have in vast amounts, then there's an opportunity for us to increase our capacity. But you asked about what other options do we have. We have solar, we have nuclear. Several people have concerns and issues about nuclear, but it is a clean energy fuel, and even the risk factors that people might have concerns about are easily mitigated based on existing technologies and realities. It's cheaper, is cleaner, and can be deployed faster within a short period of time.
One of the most valuable outcomes of research and development is the expansion of local production. The broad view is that strategies should aim to boost productivity, earning power, and competitiveness by identifying priorities to improve skills, increase innovation, and enhance infrastructure and business growth.
A good number of them we are already producing locally, right? So one policy redirection would be now, how do we ensure that they are competitive? How do we ensure that we provide them the proper enabling environment that they are sustainable? One is for the items that are being produced, you ask what are the items? For cables, transmission cables, electric cables, a good number of them being produced locally. Even transformers to a certain extent, and retrofitting of transformers are being done locally. We can build our capacity in building some of these gas turbines in Nigeria, or even assembling them here, so that the cost of importing these turbines whenever you need to deploy a power plant reduces. There's a whole gamut of appliances across the value chain, from the generation to the transmission to the distribution, that we already have local capacity in manufacturing these items. As always, the biggest factor has always been maybe access to power for the production of these entities. So that's where we also need to work on ensuring that the bottlenecks that exist in providing access to power to these manufacturing entities are reduced or curbed to a certain extent. Then the competitors, because if it's easier for you to import, then you need to find ways, and that's where policy comes in. You need to find ways to enforce the policy that if the substitutes for these entities that are being produced locally are still being imported, then you need to find ways to disincentivize those imports, whether it's by increasing tariff or even banning them to a certain extent until you increase your competitive advantage in the production of those local entities.
Leveraging on renewable energy, especially for electricity production, provides a very unique opportunity to unlock and unleash the talent and versatility of Nigeria's academia.
With the TETFund, you're dealing with the issue of the academic institutions not being in session because of strike issues. So when you have those back and forths on and off, it doesn't help increase research and learning. So one needs to now look at other options beyond maybe public institutions, private entities that will come in and bridge the gap somewhere where these public institutions are not meeting the requirements.
TETFund believes that tertiary institutions, especially our universities, play a key role in both technology development and economic growth. And the way in which these goals are achieved depends on the specifics of the sector and the local economy, as well as the larger institutional environment. The role of universities in innovation and sustainable development is most valuable for the private and public sectors in 5 main areas. First, contributing to fundamental research. Second, combining existing knowledge. Next, education and training, curriculum development. Fourth, creating space for open exploration of ideas. And finally, community involvement. So, what matters is not only technology development, but also contributions in terms of assimilation and absorption of these factors by various social groups, such that the result is a change to a more productive behavior and practices. And that is the paradigm shift. Join us again on the next edition of the program. But until then, thank you for stopping by. Good night.